Okay, let's unpack this. Um, what if I told you there's an everyday food, something you probably eat without a second thought, that could be quietly pushing your blood pressure up?
Hmm.
It might not even taste salty. Maybe you even think it's, perfectly healthy.
Right. And that's exactly the surprising idea we're diving into today.
Okay.
We're digging into these excerpts from Dale Ruddock's work, really focusing on that question. Which everyday food is secretly raising your blood pressure?
So our mission is basically to uncover this hidden culprit and figure out what we can actually do about it.
Exactly. That's the plan.
Now, we all kind of know the basic rule, right? Too much salt, bad for blood pressure.
Mm-hmm. Standard advice.
And when we think about cutting back, I think most of us, we picture the salt shaker,
Right.
on the table.
Yeah, that's the obvious thing, that extra sprinkle on your dinner or whatever.
Right.
But that's sort of the first big myth the source tackles. It highlights that, well, the salt shaker isn't actually where most of the danger is.
Oh. Okay, so if it's not the salt we're adding ourselves, where does the source say the real issue is?
Well, the data here is pretty stark, actually. It suggests over 70% of the sodium we eat. It doesn't come from us adding it at all.
70%.
Yeah, it's already in the packaged foods, the prepared stuff we buy off the shelf.
Wow, okay. Over 70.
Uh,
That completely flips the script on where we should be looking.
it really does.
So if it's hidden in these processed foods, does the source point to, one main offender, something particularly sneaky?
It does, and it's something really common, something you probably encounter every single day, maybe multiple times.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is it?
The source identifies bread and, other baked goods as well as a major hidden culprit.
Bread. Seriously, that is surprising.
Mhm.
You just don't think of bread as tasting salty, not like, chips or pretzels or something.
Exactly. And that's precisely what makes it so tricky. It flies under the radar.
Right.
But look at the numbers the source gives us. Just one slice of typical sandwich bread can pack anywhere from, say, 150 to 250 milligrams of sodium.
Whoa, 150 to 250 milligrams
Yeah.
in one slice.
Per slice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that adds up incredibly fast
It
then.
really, really does. Just think about a normal day, right? Maybe you have toast for breakfast,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe a sandwich for lunch.
Yeah, 2 slices there.
And maybe a roll with dinner. That's already, what, 3, 4, maybe 5 slices? Before you've even touched anything else.
And this must be where the source really emphasizes why bread is such a kind of subtle danger. It's a total staple food.
Absolutely. It's convenient, it's everywhere, it's in countless meals.
And we just eat it almost on autopilot, right?
Yeah,
Without really thinking about the sodium.
precisely. The real issue isn't that one slice tastes overwhelmingly salty. It usually doesn't. It's the accumulation.
Ah, okay.
So you make a sandwich, right? 2 slices of bread. That could easily be 300, 400, maybe even 500 milligrams of sodium just from the bread.
Just the bread base. Just the bread.
Yeah.
Then you add, your deli meat, maybe some cheese, some ketchup or mustard.
Things that often have a fair bit of sodium themselves.
Exactly. And suddenly you could blow past your entire recommended daily sodium limit in just one meal.
And you wouldn't even realize where most of it came from because nothing tasted that salty on its own.
That's the insidious part. It's the perfect storm, like you said. Common food, hidden sodium, eaten frequently.
So what does the source say about how this hidden sodium actually impacts your body? What's the mechanism?
Well, it explains it pretty simply. Basically, when you take in a lot of sodium, your body holds on to extra water to kind of balance it out.
Okay, like water retention.
Exactly. And all that extra water, that extra fluid volume in your bloodstream, it increases the pressure inside your blood vessels.
Right, so more fluid pushing against the artery walls. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And over time, that constant extra pressure, that high blood pressure, it strains your heart. It damages your blood vessels.
Leading to bigger problems down the line.
You're now increasing the risk for serious things like stroke, heart attack, even kidney problems.
And the really worrying thing the source points out is that high blood pressure is often called the silent killer, right?
For a good reason.
Because you usually don't feel any symptoms. Not until potentially quite a bit of damage has already been done.
Which really brings us back to the core question for this deep dive. Okay, knowing this, what practical steps can you actually take based on what this source material tells us?
Awareness seems like the first big step, right? The source really seems to push becoming a bit of a food detective.
Definitely. Starting with actually reading the nutrition labels on packaged foods.
Looking for that sodium content.
Yeah. The course suggests aiming for products with less than, say, 140 milligrams of sodium per serving. That's a pretty good benchmark for low sodium.
Okay, 140 milligrams per serving, and also leaning more towards whole, unprocessed foods whenever you can.
That's a big one, since we now know that over 70% of the sodium is hiding in those packaged and prepared items. Cooking from scratch gives you control.
Makes sense. What about the bread specifically,
Ha.
if it's a big part of your diet?
Well, the source recommends actively looking for lower sodium bread options.
Yeah.
They do exist, you just have to check the labels carefully.
Or I suppose, if you're feeling ambitious.
Baking your own, yes, that gives you total control over the salt. A bit more effort, obviously.
Yeah, maybe not for everyone. What else?
Using other things for flavor instead of just salt.
Hmm.
Herbs, spices, garlic, onion powder, lemon juice. Getting creative there.
Right, boosting flavor without boosting sodium?
Exactly. And staying hydrated is mentioned too. Drinking enough water helps your kidneys process sodium more effectively.
And finally, just keeping an eye on things.
Yes, the source encourages monitoring your blood pressure if that's feasible for you, and just generally paying attention to how you feel. It's about being proactive, being mindful of these hidden sources. That's how you gain some control back.
You know, this whole deep dive, it really hammers home that point that sometimes the biggest health risks aren't from the obvious bad guys. They can come from these everyday things, these staples like bread that we just consume without a second thought.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About how deeply embedded these packaged and prepared foods are in our modern lives, often just for convenience.
Yeah.
And if, like the source says, over 70% of our sodium comes from these hidden sources, and staples like bread don't even taste particularly salty.
How challenging is it really to know your actual sodium intake without being incredibly vigilant?
That's a really good point. What does that mean for trying to eat healthy in a world that's sort of built around quick, convenient food? It's tough.
It is. It suggests that maybe the biggest dangers really do come in the most common foods, the smallest bites we take almost unconsciously. Definitely something to chew on.